What's up, Don't Go Out There fans? Me, Brian, and Dustin have all got together. We're going to do a quick instant reaction. We all had the privilege to go see the newly released Saw X. We're just going to do our general thoughts to start this off, and then we'll jump into our positives, negatives, and maybe what our thoughts on for the future of the franchise is, because the movie's making a decent amount of money, so I'm sure they'll probably want to cash in again on the franchise, but we'll see. General thoughts, I thought it was okay. Didn't think it was anywhere near as good as what I was seeing on Twitter or TikTok, Instagram. Saw a lot of people saying it was, oh my God, it's the best movie of 2023. It's top one, top two in the franchise. Not for me.
Yeah, no,
I think it was okay. I really enjoyed the fact that Tobin was on screen for the entire movie. I mean, John Kramer is my goat for the horror villains. If we ever do a villains ranking episode, love that Tobin got to shine, got to act. I love that. But there's just some things that I'll get into when we get into our negatives that I wasn't a big fan of. Brian, general thoughts.
I liked it a lot. No, it's not top two or three like you were talking about, but it was, like you said, awesome seeing Tobin Bell and Shawnee Smith again. I think it was a brilliant choice, and I think some other franchises should consider this if they're going to move forward. Cough, Nightmare, cough, Halloween. But once again, do you like how I said cough and then coughed? That was
Double cough.
fucking. Uh, but once again, this franchise playing with time and putting this after Saul one. Now that creates a dilemma for me. I want to ask y'all about in a minute after Dustin goes. But I thought that was absolutely the way to go, and I loved it. We kind of talk a lot and go back and forth, especially in a group chat amongst ourselves about Hollywood running out of original ideas, which I do agree with. I give Dustin some shit sometimes, but I do agree with that. But also, when there's some sequel announced in the group chat, it's almost overwhelmingly like, ugh, fuck. But the last few years, like, have almost won me over to where I don't instantly do that anymore because without these legacy sequels and requels, where yeah, I mean, there's been some stinkers. Halloween Ends. You guys would say Spiral. I guess Jigsaw in this particular franchise. Not to put words in your mouth.
Doctor Sleep.
Relax. That was like
Oh, my
that
bad.
was. But there's been some stinkers. There's been some stinkers that I wish had never been made. But we would have never gotten Scream 5 and Scream 6. We would have never gotten Halloween Kills, which I absolutely love. We wouldn't have gotten Ghostbusters 3 30 years after part 2. And to me, that's worth it. I mean, if we get stinkers, okay, but I'll personally take those to get the good ones that we got. And that includes this one. And I think that this could be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think it successfully did what Don't Breathe 2 was trying to do and made you root for what is normally the bad guy, really. And I guess I'll get in more into that too whenever we go through the positives and negatives. Go ahead, Dustin.
See, I think the difference in you and I, Brian, and I think you'll agree with this, is you value nostalgia a lot more than I do. And
That's fair,
so
probably.
that's my biggest gripe about all these sequels that we get so long after the fact is I don't, nostalgia only goes so far with me. I want something fresh. And if it's a fresh take on something, sure, but man, some of these sequels we're getting just stop. Just stop. And you mentioned a few there, and we can go on and on with them. But anyway, my initial thought on Saw 10 after seeing it was, God, it's unnecessary. Like, it was a decent movie, and I texted in the group chat after the fact and said that I'd probably have it middle of the pack for the Saw movies. But then I just pulled up
Same.
my Saw ranking from when we did it on 31 for 31. No, it's probably in the bottom three, bottom four. And that's not to say it's a bad movie. It's just how good the rest of the franchise is to me. Definitely above that dog shit Spiral we got. But
I
fuck
like
that movie.
Spiral.
Yeah, you would. Um, but
Whoa,
no,
Dustin's bullying Brian instead of me this time.
oh, your turn's coming, buddy.
Justin gets
But
wrong every
no,
once in a while.
to me, it's just what in the grand scheme of things. If I was watching the Saw movies in chronological order,
Okay,
and
so
I
that's
didn't
I got
watch.
that question coming up. I got that too. I gotta talk to you about that.
Okay, so like if I didn't watch this 10th, in order, I watched it when it actually takes place. I think it would have been a fine addition. But watching it in 2023, so long after it allegedly, supposedly took place, It's like, what? Why? It was so unnecessary because nothing in the movie. You know that John Kramer has cancer, and you know that he, doesn't get healed. So what else did it add to the saga? Nothing. There wasn't one thing that happened. You're like, oh, that's why that happened in that movie. You just got to see him and Amanda, uh, their dynamic and their relationship grow a little bit more when it's in the infancy. But it was unnecessary. But it was still a pretty okay movie for what it was.
I mean, that's 100% fair. But regardless whether we think it was added enough to be made or not be made, this to me kind of creates this Star Wars dilemma. Stay with me, Nico, in the sense
I'm
that
lost.
okay, all right, Dustin. In the sense that okay, do you watch these in chronological order again, and therefore there's no twist with finding out Darth Vader is Luke's father, i.e.,
Mm.
here there's no twist with finding out Amanda is helping Jigsaw in 3, or do you
Hmm.
watch them in release order? I break my habit here, and I think that this series now, I think you watch in release order. I don't think you watch it in chronological, but that's just me. What
I
do you
think
think?
if I was watching it with someone and introducing them to the franchise, I would make them watch it as I watched it. I would watch it in release
I
order.
agree with
But
this one. I
if
agree.
it's me at home, I would probably watch it in chronological order just because, like I said, I think this one fits better watching it there. Now, some of the aging
Oh
is
yeah,
gonna when you
that's
see Amanda
them are
and
cons.
then she looks younger in the next movie, like what the hell? She got a
Yeah,
little less wrinkles. What happened? But maybe she got some Botox. But watching it in chronological order will make this movie much more worth it. I think to me, worth watching to me.
that's fair. What do you think,
I
Nico?
I would definitely go in release order because I mean, like you mentioned, you already find out that she's
Yeah,
his apprentice in Saw X. Like that takes away the twist of her telling Donnie Wahlberg she's going to carry on with his work, and yeah, I mean that spoils it. That's a bit. I mean, that's a decent twist if you think about it. So I
and
mean,
even
I
Well,
even
yeah, that's
Hoffman. I don't like Hoffman, but even Hoffman, it ruins
yeah,
that if he gets
It
lost.
spoils Hoffman too. Absolutely.
yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like if I was watching it with someone and it was their first time watching it, definitely in that order. But for me, I already know the twist, so it's not spoiling anything for me. I already know what's coming, so I would just prefer to watch it to where this movie isn't a waste of 2 hours.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let's jump into our positives, and then we'll just keep this going. Positives. I've already mentioned it. We got an hour and 50-minute movie of pretty much Tobin Bell on screen the entire time. I can't complain about that. He's my favorite horror villain of all time. I just love the character of John Kramer. But I will complain about something of John Kramer and our negatives. I'm just happy that Tobin got to shine. I think he's an exceptional actor. Uh, he gave a great performance, arguably one of his best of the entire franchise. Uh, I really enjoyed the first 30, 35 minutes, him finding out his cancer diagnosis and all that, and just deep diving into like his reaction to it. Like even the most, I don't even know how you describe him, the most evil, or even he has feelings, I guess you can say. Like even he can show weakness. Because like even if you watch like Saw 2, like he's a cancer patient, but he doesn't really show it, even when Donnie's whooping his ass. But I like seeing his emotion from finding out the cancer, trying to find a cure. I really like that. Um, I like seeing Amanda, of course, even though, kind of like Brian mentioned, he's not the biggest fan of Hoffman. I'm not the biggest fan of Amanda throughout. I love Shawnee Smith. I loved her in the first two movies. She kind of loses me in the third one, but it's at least explained well. I like seeing those two on screen together. That's really about the end of my positives. Oh, Hello Zep at the end. I always get the tingles when Hello Zep plays. Love that. But yeah, that's my positives, honestly. Brian, you want to go?
Um, Positives for me, the traps. I liked them. Most of all, I liked how they felt real. They went back to that instead of a lot of, like you talked about with Amanda and Hoffman, that seemed unwinnable, like we've talked about so many times. The fake out first trap with the maintenance guy. I thought that was different, which after 9 movies is hard to do. So I respected it. Um, we got to see the kill, and it was just him and imagining, which made more sense for the plot. But I wanted to point that out since I like the originality with that. Um, Seeing Amanda, like you mentioned, Amanda and Kramer again in a plot that didn't have to use a flashback or anything like that to get them in there. And again, I'm mixed on this. I can see where it would be a positive for me, but a negative for some fans where it made you root for Kramer in an instance. Um, and I know it kind of did in some of the others, but Kramer wasn't in the shadows in this one. It was like you mentioned, front and center with with really Kramer and not so much Jigsaw, if that makes sense. And again, after 10 movies, I'm good with that. Like I was being upfront with, and I'm sorry for continuing to reference this, but after 3 movies, I was fine with exploring Anakin and not Darth Vader. But if you watch in chronological order, will that affect the later movies? Yes. That's for future me, I guess, to decide. I don't know, another generation that would watch them that way. But the movie, I think, added depth to a character, and or to the character of Jigsaw, to the character of Kramer, and that worked. And we haven't gotten that in a very long time. Another positive, and the last positive, the last thing I have to say is, I think the twist ending, it wasn't surprising by any means. Like, it wasn't something where I was like with the other ones, like, oh shit, or it was just, it's kind of expected almost, but it worked. I don't know. That's weird. But like Dustin mentioned, maybe he hit it on the head. Maybe I just have a thing for nostalgia that drives lets me get past a lot of stuff that maybe it doesn't.
So my positives, I think that this movie did a good job of restoring the feeling, and what I mean by that is Jigsaw and part, I guess 7, the Saw 3D, whatever that one was. Like, this one feels more like a Saw movie to me than those did, and so I certainly appreciate that. I definitely agree with you, Nico. It was cool to see more Tobin Bell to a certain extent. When we get to the negatives, I'm gonna bring up something, but it was cool to kind of see what he was going through, and reminding you that he is a human, and so you kind of have some empathy for not necessarily putting people in these traps where it's live or die, where they have to mutilate their bodies or whatever, but the fact that this is a man that's desperate to do whatever he can to just not die yet. It was cool to see the thought process in it, like seeing him sketch out the traps. I thought was cool. He had his little notebook there, and he'd sketch something out, and then when he ripped the one out and threw it away, I thought that was just cool, just to see, peek behind the curtain and see how the wheels spin. The traps, I do like them, but I have issues with some of that as well. I'll get into that when we get to negatives. I thought the performances were great from Tobin Bell. It was cool to see Shawnee Smith again. I thought Cecilia was very hot. Some of the I didn't think that her acting was great though, and what I mean by that is, even in the I guess I'll say it. Go ahead and say it. Her acting wasn't great because when she's in the trap and all the shit's happening, people are dying and everything, she never once convinced me that she was worried or concerned, or she didn't display any emotions in her face really, and that goes so far. I like the ending with Tobin being, I guess, helped out by the little boy, and seeing their dynamic, like the little boy having the wheels click and even sacrificing himself for a moment just so Kramer could get some breath. I thought that was a touching moment between them, and they got out. The biggest positive for me is just restoring the feeling.
I don't know if I disagree with you, but I thought she did a fine job of acting, and I kind of took her not showing emotion as, they're just corrupt business partners, and she really didn't give a fuck about them, and she was just happy she was getting more money. But I can understand where you're coming from, not showing
But
emotion.
yeah, I meant, like, even when it looked like she was gonna be killed, like she didn't
Yeah,
even seem scared for her life. So I don't know.
no, I feel
And
you.
yeah, go ahead.
All right, let's jump into our negatives, and I'll try not to ramble too much because I don't want it to come across like I just thought the movie was dog shit. I don't think that at all. But I kind of disagree with Dustin. I don't even feel like it felt like a Saw movie. Uh,
Hmm.
the grit wasn't there. The like that 1 through 6, it just has a certain feel, a certain look to it that this one just didn't capture. I hold Jigsaw to a different standard, kind of like Hannibal Lecter. Like I've seen them two, compared online. I think Jigsaw is like cunning. He's always one step ahead. He's smarter than you are, but he gets got by an online medical scam. That kind of takes away from his lore to me a little bit. Didn't quite work, but you can explain it if you want to say he just got the worst news of his life. He's not all there. I can understand that, but I don't know. I don't see it that way personally. The traps, I wasn't a big fan of them. Like we get like the eye trap is on the poster and it's not even real. Like,
Yeah.
kind of some blue balls there. And then like the rest of them, like where they're all in this warehouse, a little too convenient to me that he's in Mexico with none of his shit, and like he set all this up, and he just and it was just so easy. All he had to do was fly Amanda southwest of Mexico and call Mark Hoffman and got all their info. A little lazy to me, maybe. I don't know. It's just kind of reaching. Then like all the traps, like you mentioned, like they're all doing them individually, but they're all watching each other. I kind of like the traps better either while they're all playing the game at the same time or it's just one on one and you watch the tape. And I don't know, it just didn't hit
But you,
for me.
but you didn't know that until this one because they've never done it. So I mean, I at least respect that they tried something different, right? I mean, you didn't know you didn't like that until this one, but you'd never
Yeah,
seen
I
it
mean,
before.
you're right. I mean, they didn't try it until now. So, I mean, some people loved it. Obviously, they got it ranked as number 1 or 2 in the franchise. But just for me, I didn't love
That's
that. Like,
that's just recency bias.
yeah,
people are like, oh, this is new and shiny, and yeah, it's the best. It's
yeah,
got to be.
and that's why I mentioned that when I did our my TikTok ranking the franchise. I want to watch the movie at least a couple more times before I say it's bottom 4. I want to give it at least a couple more tries, but I think that's just my biggest issue is like they it made Jigsaw seem not like he was the smartest one involved, and I didn't love that. And then at the end when the final two were like in the last trap, I loved when Hello Zep started playing. I got the chills obviously 'cause that's one of my top 2 favorite horror scores. But did the woman live and like we never find out what happens to her? Like she just moved on with her life, never never tried to find Jigsaw again. I mean, like they just left happily ever after. I don't know. I mean, it just some of that didn't work for me. Like, especially just, I mean, Jigsaw. He just found out he had cancer and like he wasn't the strongest he's ever been. I mean, how'd they set these traps up? I mean, these are pretty intricate traps. But I'll stop now. I'll let Brian go. What's your negatives?
I mean, I can see that for sure. Well, I think I thought you were going to have this. I think Dustin might, but this is actually the same as one of my positives, which was seeing Kramer and Amanda again, because, like you mentioned, they don't de-age them at all. And I know it's kind of a running joke with this franchise where they've shown flashbacks of Kramer and just put a hat on backwards, like "Hello, fellow kids." But but yeah, they noticeably don't look the age that they are in this timeline. So again, like you mentioned, and like we talked about, watching it in chronological order would be jarring, I think.
Amanda for sure. Like that wig was terrible. John, the only reason I gave him a pass was because he just found he had cancer. Like he looked like shit. I could understand that one a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
Amanda's wig looked horrible.
Well, I mean,
Well,
And
and
they
no
didn't
offense
de-age
to
her at all.
Shawnee. Yeah, and Shawnee Smith's not had the she's had a rough few years too. So I mean, I can definitely see
but
it
then
aged her. Hell.
to what you're saying, Nico, like you want to give him the benefit because he just found out he had cancer and everything, but he looks better after, like later in the timeline when he still had cancer. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's fair. Um, I wondered what happened to that guy who gave the website to Kramer, the entire time, and whether he was in on it or did he get treated by the father and not the daughter. I didn't know. And while I think that should have been in the movie and not a post credit scene, I also don't think that Hoffman should have been in it at all. I mean, we got the reference on the phone, and I think that's all we needed. No offense to him, but Costas Mandalore has noticeably gained weight. So, I mean, hey, that happens to all of us, but it kind of felt out of place. And another reason why I think this series should be watched in release order. The last thing, Cecilia knowing about, quote, the great Jigsaw, that didn't really make sense to me, especially if this came in between just right after the first movie, like 3 months after the first movie or something. I mean, if this was later in the franchise, maybe, but that to me didn't make sense, and for some reason stood out to me.
Yeah, my negatives. I'm gonna echo a lot of what you guys said. The fake out trap bothered me. It was cool because it kind of gave you a peek behind the curtain into his mind, right? Like when
Right,
he sees
right.
someone needing it, it's like, what's his thought process look like? And how does he come up with these traps and shit? So it was kind of cool to see, like, damn, as soon as he sees something, bam, he's already got a plan in store for them. But like Nico said, that's the fucking movie poster. That's blue balls. Now I get it. We still got to see it.
You still got to
So
see it exactly.
still got to see it, but it wasn't real. So I don't know. It was conflicting on that, I guess, but more negative because I would have rather that had really happened. Um,
It was unique.
Yeah, that's for sure. Him being in the spotlight and not Jigsaw. Now you mentioned after 10 movies, but you got, to me, it's not after 10 movies. This is after the first movie, and it doesn't fit. Now he was
And
in the
that's
room.
yeah.
He was in the room in the first movie, but we didn't know it was him. We thought he was dead and all that. It doesn't fit Jigsaw. It doesn't fit it doesn't fit John Kramer to me. Also, how fucking convenient he was that he just happened to round up the whole gang in a foreign country where he doesn't know anyone. He doesn't know anyone's name. He just happened to find the taxi driver because apparently that's the only taxi driver in Mexico City. And then he got him to talk, and he got him to, drop dimes and tell him everyone else's name that's involved and where to get them. Not only that, he's in this fucking warehouse, and I don't know how much time he had to spend in that warehouse, but he had it rigged up like it was his. Like the locking mechanism on the door that trapped him in at the end. How? That was synchronized with the lights. Like the lights flashing and the door locking at the same time, synchronized like that. And there just happened to be cutouts in that office wall for them to stick their heads through. The trap that was built for two people, that him and the kid, what was the kid's name? Diego, maybe? Carlos. The trap that was made for two people. Like that, think about how elaborate that trap is. It's a platform that's got a lever system that's going to dump blood directly into the person's mouth. How did he set that up? He's just one man and Amanda. How much time do they have to really plan this out and get this done? How many resources did he have in Mexico City? Issues with that. And then you mentioned Henry. Yeah, I have a major problem with that too, mainly because I didn't stay to watch the post-credit scene. I had to piss. So I texted Nico after, and I was like, it would have been cool to see what happened with Henry. Was he in on it? Like, that's as soon as Henry gave him the website, though, like as soon as he bumped into him at the coffee shop or wherever it was, where he's getting that muffin. And my immediate thought was, after Henry walked away, he's in on it. John Kramer's going to have him in a trap by the end of this movie. And so I guess it makes sense from that regard, because I watched the whole movie and was like, well, shit, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But then they did the post-credit scene. So if you're going to have him be a part of it, have it be a part of the movie. If you're not, then, just leave it be. You mentioned how much Costas Mandylor's gained weight or whatever. That made me think of, did you ever see El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie that came out a couple years ago?
Yes.
My God, Jesse gained some weight, my brother. Like he gained so much weight.
At least that was after. It wasn't like a prequel to it. So.
Well, it was like right after though. It was like Jesse was still, or not Jesse. What's his name? The kid. But anyway, I have issues with it, with the plausibility. That's my main one, and just. It's not John Kramer to have them see his face if they truly have a chance to live. And what's her name did live. Cecilia did live. She knows who did it. That's not John Kramer style. And what you said, Nico, I didn't even think about, but yes, you're 100% right. How in the fuck has she heard of the Great Jigsaw? No, not buying it.
Yeah. My biggest issue is just they made him seem like he didn't do his research. Like John Kramer wasn't the cunning, one step ahead villain that he's always has been. Like that bothers me, man. It's like you wait until you get got to have Mark Hoffman look these people up.
I mean, Hannibal Lecter, got caught too. I mean, so they slip up. So I get that. But if you're watching chronological order, it doesn't work.
Yeah, play his fuck up.
Todd is who I was thinking of from Breaking Bad. Jesse Plemons. Yeah. He had gained so much weight from the time the show to the movie. And I always think about that. But anyway.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
You should. The hell's your problem?
No, I've heard Breaking Bad is awesome. I've heard it's great. I just haven't watched it yet. I get overwhelmed with shows when there's so much.
I know, man. You got to watch Friday the 13th Part 6 again.
Damn right. Damn right. I watched that shit the other day. It was great. Anywho, back to this movie. I saw online, where I think it was they asked the writer or the director, did they kill Jigsaw off too early in Saw 3? I don't think so, because it was a producer. I saw the article on Facebook or something, but I think the way they executed 4, 5, and 6 worked. Like they showed his background, with other simultaneous cuts with the plot. I liked it. Like I don't like I never complained like we didn't get enough Jigsaw on screen because I thought they pulled it off well. They had
Mhm.
really powerful moments. Then you got to invest with these other characters. I really liked it. Like I don't know. That's just me. Not that I'm
I'm
mad that
with
he
you.
was on. Like not that I'm mad that he had a whole movie about him, but I don't know. Just making him fall for the medical scam. Like, come on, man.
I mean,
I liked it.
that part didn't really bother me because he met Henry at the cancer support group, and Henry did look noticeably better the next time he saw him. And my dad was on medication that wasn't approved in the United States, and so I know shit like that happens. Like you can get medicine. He got his medicine from Canada, and it worked. So I mean, there are back channels, and I don't hold that against him that much because when you're dying and you're told you have months to live at best, then you get desperate and you're like, okay, well, if there's a chance it could heal me, I'll try it.
And he technically did do his research with looking at the videos and stuff, but no, I mean he didn't check their backgrounds and stuff. He took them
Ooh.
more for face value, but he did do some research on, the procedure and the background. Like they had a pretty good scam going.
I'm glad you brought that up. They did a great job of making the internet look like
Yes.
the internet would have looked. Like it looked like that Windows XP or whatever was out at the time. But something that bothered me, I don't know if you guys noticed it, when he's watching the video of the doctor talking, there's a slider at the bottom that's showing the time. It's moving way too fast for how long.
Yeah, that thing is boot scooting.
It's
Oh, I
boot
didn't
scooting,
notice
and
that.
the doctor's talked so much that you're like, okay, if he's talked that much at that speed with how short that is, the video would be over by now. And so that was just like that's an error.
Yeah,
didn't catch that.
I noticed that as well. I mean, my whole thing is like Jigsaw knows the whole fucking background of these people he captures and puts in these traps, but he didn't do a goddamn lick of research on something that's going to save his life. Like he knows Adam's whole fucking backstory and chains him to a fucking pipe. Like I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like that. But anywho, any thoughts on the future of the franchise? I mean, I kind of hope they don't milk this to death and like make it worse. Like we don't need that. Don't Children of the Corn this shit. Come on.
Well, I
Let
mean,
it-
this was the highest released opening weekend for the franchise since Saw 3D, I think is what it said. So I think I read that. I don't know if where it is as of today, but I think I think looking at it from the studio's perspective, this franchise still has legs if you do it right, which I know we disagree on them doing this right, but I think they did fine. I thought it was a nice little entry, playing with time. Doing a legacy sequel like this seems, more maybe natural for this franchise, judging on how it hasn't necessarily been a chronological franchise anyway. But I love it. I'm for it. If you want to do another one between 2 or 3 or whatever, I'm for that. It's,
Tobin's 81 though. I mean, he can't. I mean, how many of these he got left in him? He ain't Vince Carter. I got one more left in me.
I don't know, man. Look at Todd, man. He's still kicking, he's doing Final Destination coming out too. And I know at
Yeah,
some
but that's a
point you're like,
limited role though. I mean, you can't have Jigsaw doing this again.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean,
Brian,
you saw the new
there's-
Candyman movie. Tony was what 5 seconds of it at the very
5
end.
seconds. Spoiler alert, jeez. But yeah,
It's been out 2 years. If they ain't seen it yet, that's their fault.
I'm just fucking with you.
Brian,
I don't
when
know.
you're just-
I don't mind it because I liked the movie, so I didn't mind it. Now, if you do it again and I hate it, then I'm gonna say you shouldn't have fucking made it. But that's me Monday morning quarterbacking. So
Hearing you say that, Brian, just talk about, yeah, keep going. This was good. If I had a cigarette, I would have lit it in my
didn't say
house
that,
right now.
by the way.
Because that just stresses me out, man. See, that's where I think you and I differ. I'm perfectly good with franchises going out on a high note or quitting while the getting's good.
But how do you know? But how do you know the getting's good? Like how do you know? How do you know this is Seinfeld? How do you know when to go
Because Michael
out?
Jordan came back with the Wizards and he was not the same player.
But even Michael Jordan
Stay-
didn't know when to quit. Like it's just like I don't.
Sometimes
know.
you gotta know. Ric Flair is still
It's-
wrestling matches, brother.
I
Hang up
know,
the
you're
boots.
right. Exactly.
Hang up the
you
boots.
just don't know until you,
No,
you
you know.
do it, and then you're like
Limousine riding. Jet flying.
And you
Nah.
mentioned that this was the highest box office since Saw 3D. Well, my God, look what came after that. Jigsaw and fucking Spiral. Congrats. So, I mean, Jigsaw, I liked it more than Nico for sure, but
I like
Spiral,
Spiral more than you for sure.
to quote The Rock, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
That's Dwayne
I-
Johnson. That's not The Rock.
Oh yeah, that's Dwayne. Sorry. They look alike. I can't ever tell. I'm good with letting it die. Don't sour my opinion on the franchise that much by continuing to crank them out. 10 movies. That's a lot of movies. That's a lot of
I mean,
movies.
I agree with that. But
And
I think this comes. No, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. No, I said I think this stems from my childhood because like I would during the summers, watch franchises, just watch pop in movie one after another, like during the summer when I was home, just bored until my parents got off work. But like I would watch like Batman and Batman Returns, and then they would like recast, and then I would be like, why, like it would just drive me crazy. And then I would watch like Ghostbusters 2, and be like, God, I just wish I had one more with this crew and I don't know. It's like all those movies that I used to watch and franchises I used to watch. I think I like I just wanted like one more with the same group of people. And I don't know, maybe that's what it stems.
see, I guess I just like I said, I don't want. I've seen it too often where you try to recreate lightning or try to catch lightning in a bottle twice, 3 times, 4 times, and eventually your luck runs out, and you get shit that just like is not up to the standard. And take this is something that I bring this up a lot. I always say when I'm talking about music, if DMX had retired after his first 3 albums, then people would say he's up there with Biggie, Tupac. He's one of the greatest ever. Problem is, DMX didn't stop rapping. He continued to put out albums, and some of them were not all that great. And so it soured his legacy. And he's still phenomenal. So Saul is still going to be phenomenal if they keep pumping him out. But you're talking about being one of the absolute best to one that's it's pretty good. I'm gonna look upon it favorably, but if they just stop where they're ahead, it'll be so much better.
I mean, I get that, but like, look, like we just brought up Friday the 13th Part 6. Like, it took 6 movies to get to Nico's favorite of the Friday the 13th.
Well, my favorite too, but
right, and now we're like, we're 6 movies into Scream, and I love it. I'm like very pumped like for the next one until they mess it up, and then we're like, yeah, like So I don't know. I mean,
that's 6. We're at 10.
6 is the number.
Yeah, we're at 10 in Saul.
I think that this movie is better than at least the Hoffman ones, in my opinion. So like, it took 10 to get one that I thought is better than the Hoffman movies. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm mixed on it. And so are you, I guess. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I like Friday Part 4 a lot too. Just throwing that out there.
I like Friday.
But your favorite is the 6th entry. In the
I like Next Friday and Friday After Next pretty good.
But
my favorite Friday the 13th was the 12th, the one that they made.
Yeah, but that's a reboot. You know what
That's a
I'm saying?
reboot.
But like you mentioned though, Brian, they did something really different in Part 6 compared to the 5 that came before it. So I mean, I could understand that one being someone's favorite. You get a totally different Jason, tone, everything.
Well, 5 was completely different too.
Yeah, that's really a different Jason.
That's Roy.
but it still felt like the first 4.
Yeah,
it still felt like the first. I'm gonna pitch a legacy sequel. Not that I want it, but the only way that I could see you doing it is you show Mark Kaufman still alive from 7.
Well,
somebody came back and freed him, or he had someone else in on it with him. I mean, I don't want that. Because how much have I bitched about retconning or shoehorning in another character with Scream? Like, I got to be consistent. I got to be consistent. I don't want you to bring in another cop that was in all along that we saw one time during a fucking press conference that you were buddies with. I don't want that shit.
Make it be Chris Rock's dad. Ooh.
Yeah, something like that. Somebody from Spiral, Chris Rock and Mark Kaufman knew each other through email or something. I'm just saying that's a legacy sequel you could use, but I don't want that. So, if y'all got any more final thoughts, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm gonna read our few social media comments and questions, and we'll wrap this up.
Let's go ahead.
All right, those are all about Halloween. Let's jump on over to. Well, I should have made 2 separate posts, but I was lazy. Let's see, Saul. All right, let's jump over to Facebook. Sean Irwin comment: I thought Saw X was well paced, fun, and made sense for where it was in the timeline. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I don't
you
agree.
Agreeing with Sean, man. I hate agreeing with Sean.
Mookie on Twitter commented, love Saw X, 3rd favorite in the franchise right now. but I need more viewings. And I'm going to leave it at that because the rest of his comment was about the Halloween aspect, which we'll be covering in just a few minutes. I had a really good time doing this reaction. It was fun. You know, I mean, it could have been better to me, but it was fun to talk about a Saw movie in 2023.
Well, what would you? I mean, I know we didn't review it, but right now, what would you rate it out of 10?
Oh, what did I say in the group chat? 5.5, 6, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And I said I'm about a 6 to a 7. I would probably say 6.5.
Yeah, and I said 6 to 7 as well, but I would probably lean more towards the 7, I guess, than you did. But I mean, we're still all pretty close for it. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But see, what I was saying though, you see a 6.5 to 7, 7.5, whatever you said, as ooh, let's keep it going. I see a 6.5 as that's well below the average score for me in the franchise. Stop. Enough.
Yeah, I'm with you because Spencer from Twitter, he asked me what's my favorite Saw movie, and I told him 6. But I said honestly, 1 through 6, I would probably give all of them close to a 9, just because I'm a big fan. You know that this is my Scream compared to Mike and Brian. That's my. I'm close to a 9 at the minimum for the first 6. I really like the story, and so I'm with you, Dustin. A 6, 6.5. Like we're starting to down the hill.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this shit up and not ruin it anymore.
It's always funny when you say that, like, this is my Scream, because that's my 2 favorite franchises is Saw and Scream. So completely different vibes, but
yeah. Would you like this better? It's kind of a rhetorical question, I guess, but would you like this better if they never made Jigsaw, they never made Spiral, and this was, like you never got those 2 ones that you're like, fuck, quit making these movies. Like, would you like this better, you think?
Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just going to say I would be pissed off if I had to wait from Saw 3D until 2023. What was that? That was 2009, I think, or something like that. To
2010.
2010 to 2013. That's what I bitch about a lot is why so much time has passed and now you're just going to make another sequel just as a cash grab. So if this one came out in 2011, 2012, whatever, closer to it, then maybe. But
I mean, I waited 34 years for Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I know, and I like Ghostbusters Afterlife, but hot take, don't kill me. Been fine if they didn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I liked it a lot, but just that's how it bothers you how they recast things. It bothers me how they have these enormous gaps between releases in a franchise.
Yeah. Jigsaw, I got a bigger problem with Jigsaw just because, like I mentioned earlier, they shoehorned in another apprentice we never knew about. Yeah. Jigsaw saves the guy because he didn't wake up from his drugs. Man, fuck off. Spiral, I kind of barely even consider it part of the franchise just because it's from the book of it. Doesn't have John in it. It's just Chris Rock's take on it. I kind of just put that one to the side. Like it's kind of adjacent. I see Spiral differently from the rest of the Saw movies. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, I feel like we've done a pretty good reaction show. Appreciate all the fans and listeners. I'm not telling you don't go see it. Go see the movie. Support him. Just because I'm happy my man Tobin's getting a payday. He's 81 years old. He deserves it.
Come on the damn show, Tobin.
Yeah, and go to a convention. I'm ready to meet you, man. Come on. Damn. Like I want to meet Tobin Bell before. I mean, he's 81. I don't want to speak death on him, but I mean, he's getting close, right? I mean, he's 81 for Pete's sake.
Well, with the other advances in modern medicine, there's no reason to believe he can't live to be 200, 230 years old.
He can't even find cancer stuff that's right.
That was Ricky Bobby. I don't think I got the years right, but
shout out Ricky Bobby. Anywho, let's wrap this up. I had a good time. Appreciate you guys joining me for this. Leave your comments and your thoughts on our social media posts. We'd love to hear them. Y'all have a good one.